Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So I know many of you are going to look at the title of this video and either not click and watch, or if you do click and watch, you immediately comment with something negative about Shaka or the basketball program or myself about, hey, Steve, why do you feel the way you feel about Texas basketball this week? Listen, I actually sit here and watch these games. I root for Texas each and every timeout, whistle, however you want to break it down, when that team is out on the court. They made me proud this week. When you're down, arguably your best player in Jericho Sims, who's out indefinitely, your best shooter in Jace Febris, who's out indefinitely, one of your best most athletic defenders on the wing, probably your best wing guy in Gerald Liddell. All these guys are out. Matt Coleman doesn't play Wednesday against TCU, and you're able to put together back-to-back victories in the Big 12 against coaches like a Jamie Dixon or a Bruce Weber. I'll take it all day long, especially with the freshmen, because my thing is, regardless of how you feel about the coach, Shaka Smart, or the program, or what have you, because attendance that's been made very clear with the attendance issues, and I'll get to that in a second. But I am very, very thankful, and I love these kids. I love the group we have. I love the potential they have. That was on display today, and I know Kansas State is the last place in the Big 12, and they are struggling mightily. They're fighting with the coach in the Texas Tech game, and then today, they're talking about some of the issues that they've been having all season. Those brothers are in shambles. It's very, very obvious. But when you look at on our side from a Texas perspective, guys who have not necessarily been in the spotlight all year or have gotten the most minutes stepping up today. And I'm talking about more of the unsung guys because I know Courtney Ramey was in his bag today. Will Baker and Andrew Jones were in their bag on Wednesday against TCU. But, whether it's Brock Cunningham, Kamaka Hepa giving me minutes, Donovan Williams coming in giving me energy, Kai Jones who's been giving me energy all season. And these are young guys, whether they're freshmen or sophomores, who I believe have a bright future within the landscape of college basketball. Because college basketball, real talk, has been trash this year anyway. And when you got teams like Baylor, I know Baylor just went down today to Kansas in Waco. But when we lost to Baylor, what was it, 52-45 a couple weeks ago? And Mark Vital's the player of the week, and he has 8 points and 8 rebounds, and he shoots like 41% from the free throw line. Like, that's the landscape of college basketball right now. That's your number one team in the country. So across the board, they've been struggling. And I understand those who are frustrated with Shaka Smart not taking advantage of that with the recruiting classes he's had, with Matt Coleman. You have that point guard now. Like, all the excuses that were made over the first 4 or 5 years, those aren't necessarily present now. But when you lose almost half of your team and almost 60% of the production between, like I said before, Sims, Febris, Liddell, and Coleman one game, and you step up and win 2 games like this in conference, regardless of how poorly those other teams are playing, I have to be impressed with that. And it's baby steps with these guys because this is a young basketball team. And you look at moving forward. I sounded like Charlie Strong saying you look at. But moving forward, they have the only person that may leave is Jericho Sims on this roster. Everyone's going to be back next year, the entire group, which is why they've been really targeting one player in recruiting, which is Greg Brown at Vandergrift, who's here locally. According to ESPN, number 9 player overall in the country, McDonald's All-American, arguably the most athletic player in high school basketball today. So you look at the potential of adding him next season to this group, however this finishes out, because Texas still has 4 basketball games left. And keep in mind, when they showed the attendance issues on Wednesday night, and there's like 10 people there before tip-off. It's embarrassing. It's a bad look for Texas. It's a bad look for Shaka. It's a bad look for Cristo Conti. It's a bad look for Texas athletics, period, right? Now, I live here in Austin. It's very, very difficult for me personally to attend Texas basketball games or any sporting events during the week based on my work schedule. I do try to get out to events, and you guys have seen me at UT football games, UT baseball games. Shout out to David Pierce and his Black History Month, the efforts they've made in diversifying the baseball team, and they're 7-0 now. So love the intent behind what they're doing, Coach David Pierce. But whether it's football, baseball, basketball, for me personally, it's easier for me to get out there on the weekends. But I'm not saying that's the excuse for the entire Texas fan base or anything like that. Yes, there's a lot of people who are disinterested in the program. Yes, there's a lot of fans who are basketball casuals. Just being real with you. They're super casuals, and if the team's doing good, or if it's Kansas or Tech when they were really good last year, they'll come and turn up for that. Other than that, they don't really give a damn about the basketball team, even if they're average, because the team is 16-11. They're 6-8 within the Big 12. The last 2 years in the Big 12, they've gone 8-10. Right now, they're probably on pace to go 8-10 again if they split the last 4 games down the stretch. They have West Virginia coming into Austin on Monday. The following Saturday, which is a week from today when I'm recording this, I believe they go to Lubbock to play Texas Tech, and then they finish with OU and Oklahoma State at the beginning of March. That's your big. So looking at that, let's say they go 1-3 or 2-2, you're looking at a 18-13 record, or sorry, my dog's drinking some water, but 18-13 record or a 17-14 record. Like, is it the end of the world for Texas basketball when a lot of people are super casual about it? No. Now, I understand the money that Chris Del Conte and the border region and everybody's investing, and the new practice facilities, the new basketball arena. Like, I totally get it and understand it. However, you can't, just say, well, this whole thing is trash. And because I notice a lot of people pointing at the attendance issues, but no one wanted to talk about the fact that we won a basketball game against a team that has a very, very similar record to us without half the damn team. And I'm like, well, guys, like, are we going to keep talking about attendance, which nobody can control outside of in terms of the people that have the ability to impact those things, which is your athletic director and marketing and the coaching and how the team is performing. I get all that. But as a fan, like, I care about how the team is performing. And I've been waiting on Will Baker. I tweeted that today. Will Baker was a high-level recruit that came in. And because of his stature, because of him being from Austin, there was a lot of expectations harped upon him to be that guy right off the bat. Not necessarily a one and done, but somebody who would come in and be a part of the rotation and be very productive. He gets into a really, really bad shooting slump. That's his thing. He's a 7-foot stretch big man, left-handed, has some nice perimeter skills, and some things he can do in terms of off the pick and roll. Loses confidence, starts off 1 for 25 shooting the 3 ball, and falls out of the rotation. Nowhere to be found. These guys go down. He comes back. Shaka Smart, Luke Lawledge have been talking about. He's been working on his game in practice. Very, very hard working. Gets an opportunity again to reassert himself. Starts playing with confidence. One of the biggest things I've talked about anytime I make a basketball video is playing with confidence. Playing with that belief in yourself so that your gifts can take over. That's why certain players, you just see it when they have that dog in them. They may not be the most talented guy on the court, but they're maximizing every ability they have in their body. Will Baker wasn't able to maximize anything up until TCU on Wednesday because he was just he's not in the flow of it, and that's okay. He's a freshman, but when the team's struggling, people write him off. We look at, and we also look at the guys who have struggled to develop in this program under Shaka Smart. He deserves heat for that. I mentioned him finishing 8-10, 8-10, potentially 8-10. So 8-10 3 years in a row in the Big 12 Conference. That's something, if I'm at Chris Del Conte, I'm looking at. That's not good enough, period. But I'm also not going to be like, I'm not going to be like taking into account how they've recruited and the team they have set up for next year, especially the way Shaka can recruit. I have no doubt about if he's still here, he can land Greg Brown and get an elite player in here. And I know we feel some type of way about one and done basketball players. I get it. thing is you're adding a one and done basketball player to now what will be a very, very veteran roster next year. It's not the situation that Mo Bamba came into where there was a couple guys who had some experience, but he was playing with a freshman point guard and other guys who were coming in alongside him. We're adding one player to a stacked team from a starts standpoint, not necessarily talent or anything. But I like the skill set. And they alluded to some of that on the CBS broadcast today. And look, I'm going to go back to my earlier point. I root for the kids. I root for the team. I'm still a college basketball fan. This season has been trash. A lot of the teams are trash. I don't know if I said it on this video or another one. You know, you look at Baylor when we played them, 52-45. Mark Vital, 8 points, 8 rebounds, 41% from the free throw line. You know, that's the state of college basketball right now. And I know they just lost to Kansas today in Waco, where, you know, they had an opportunity at the end of the game to still win. But the fact that Kansas has been running this thing for so long, and they have, you know, you got conferences right now. Big 12, for example, I think Dotson leads our conference in scoring at like 18 points a game. Like, you got people in the top 5 scorers, 15 points a game. Like, college basketball as a whole is struggling right now. There's not a lot of kids playing with confidence. There's not a lot of kids who can dribble, pass, and shoot within the framework of an offense and play, you know, effectively. I think some of the challenges with some of these illegal zones and stuff that they run at this level of basketball can be very, very frustrating for some of the more talented players. Georgia has a guy in Anthony Edwards who's going to be a top 3 pick next year, and they probably won't even win 15 games total this season. So, you know, college basketball as a whole, it's trash right now. I'm just being honest. North Carolina's won 10 games, and they have Cole Anthony. And that roster, you watch North Carolina play for 5 minutes, you're like, this is Roy Williams' team, really? So I'm just trying to say, have some perspective if you're really watching the landscape of the game. I talked to my brother last night, who's a huge Maryland fan, and I told him, look, I understand your frustrations, and Maryland's a top 10 team right now, by the way. I believe they're 22-4. I'm like, dude, you guys have a future NBA player in Jalen Smith. Anthony Cowan's a good player. Like, you guys have an opportunity to go as far as you want. Look at San Diego State. Look at Gonzaga every year. Like, you guys can go as far as you want in this tournament. Like, that's why I'm not even counting out Texas all the way yet. They're 16-11. That's not horrendous. Let's say they get hot a little bit, or they get one of those guys back that I mentioned that was injured, and they end up with 19, 20 wins if you include the Big 12 tournament. I don't know if Chris Del Conte's going all the way to fire him. And I know many people are fired up about John Beilein. John Beilein, excellent college resume. West Virginia, I believe he coached Richmond before. Michigan, obviously we saw what he did there. Coach Lawless came from Michigan underneath the tutelage of John Beilein. I would also be a little hesitant there as well, though. He does build programs very slowly. He is an offensive guy versus Shaka being more on the defensive side of things that we haven't necessarily seen Shaka develop all that too. But how he left Cleveland, not connecting with young guys at all, because Cleveland had college-age roster. And I know it's the NBA, it's a different level of basketball. I get all that, different rules. But that's going to be used against him in recruiting. And if you bring John Beilein in, you don't get Greg Brown next year. And I know you can't hold hard decisions on one player that's probably a one and done. All I'm saying is, unless you're getting a home run national championship basketball coach like a Billy Donovan, who I would make that move in a heartbeat if conversations were had and he was available, and he puts because he can come in the room, put his rings on the table, and everybody shuts up, right? So all I'm saying is, if we're going to go and replace Shaka and make this move, and I'm still standing by what I've said before in a previous video, Shaka's not our long-term solution, but enjoy the team, enjoy the kids. I'm still rooting for this team. I'm still rooting for Shaka. I'm still rooting for these kids. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about my feelings about where I'm with the coach right now. I want to be, but I'm also on board with rooting for the development of a Donovan Williams. I look at his raw ability, and I see his ability. If he can tighten up his handle and continue to improve his jump shot, he does have that ability to score in some uncanny ways. Will Baker, we saw him get a body today in Manhattan. Those are things he can do off the dribble, especially if he's going to be making some threes and guys start to hedge on him like that. He can put the ball on the floor and do some things. Brock Cunningham, Captain Scrap, he can do some things, chippy, and guard other teams, best players. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter or anything like that, but these are guys. These are guys that have the ability to be good college basketball players. That's all I'm saying, right? Kai Jones, sky's the limit with him. 6'11". He can run down the floor. He can run with anybody. He's a good shot blocker. All these guys. So, and then Courtney Ramey. That's the last person I want to talk about because he balled out today. I just like to see him get to the free throw line more because he's a guy with the way his body's improving. I did see the interview with Coach Lawledge where he talked about Courtney's work ethic, how much he's improved just from the beginning of the season, the work that they're doing behind the scenes. I think you're starting to see that. If we can get there consistently, because there's a reason why he's only averaging 10 points a game when he hits 26 today. And it's like, well, where's that been at all the time? And I know he's not a great shooter from the perimeter per se, but he can get to the rim, and he struggled with some of those bunnies and some of those runners that were falling for him today. But with the way that he plays and in the style in which he can attack the basket, I'd like to see him get to the free throw line more often. There's no reason why Texas should be dead last in the entire country in free throw shooting opportunities or attempts or however. They're just not aggressive enough. So the one thing I've enjoyed this week is seeing them up that level of aggression. Now, I shouldn't have to tell Shaka that with when he has his main guys or whatever, but I would just like to see that get developed amongst this group. So we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, and for the short term, I support Texas basketball. I enjoyed what they did this week. I'm going to be out either, whether it's the Oklahoma State game or West Virginia. Probably won't be able to swing West Virginia, but Oklahoma State game, I'll try to get out to that game and support these brothers because I'm really, really proud of how they fought. No matter what the result is, it's still Texas all day. So appreciate you guys. If you guys want to see more college basketball videos or more of these college basketball discussions, hit me up in the comments and let me know. Love to get this video and some more of my thoughts out to the greater landscape people that follow UT athletics. And the other thing I want to say, two other things. For my UT football fans, we will be having our top 2019 players list coming out here very, very soon. Sharon and I are working on that. And then the other thing is anybody coming into town mid-month of March, for South by Southwest, hit us up, let us know. We're going to be around doing a couple things. I'm volunteering for my job down there here locally, but I'll be around the mix. So if anybody wants to meet up for any type of networking events or anything like that, please let us know, DM us, send us an email, and we'll link. So appreciate you guys. Horns always up.